Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me. And maybe just quickly an introduction to myself and the topic. EV charging, as mentioned, is a big transition happening currently in the industry, especially Germany, huge OEM car maker industry. And it is something that is not as simple as petrol stations, maybe, where you just bring some petrol and then you pump up your car and you leave. It's a several layers of software, and it's infrastructure. It's digital infrastructure, and it's broken to start with. It's not really a great experience at the moment. But that's hence the title, deep tech. Deep tech because of the infrastructure, because of the underlying elements in this, and also because of our offering. But I'm trying to make this a bit more fun, not too technical. I have a lot of technical slides. We can go into this later if you want. I also have a few of them in this, but I try to keep it a bit more high level in the beginning. And also would like to start with a question to the audience to understand a bit more where you're coming from, because it is a rather new topic, electric mobility. So just my question, how many people in the audience have experience with electric driving, electric cars and charging? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So about, yeah, okay, cool. Everybody else, I assume, is on combustion engines, right? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good. So that's just for me to get a bit of an understanding. So what is it? Why am I even presenting this? What is the problem that we're talking about here? And I just came back from holidays, actually. I was in, far away, so I'm a bit more tan maybe than usually. And I was in Abu Dhabi just 12 hours ago, and we went all the way to Al Ain, which is a very beautiful oasis, actually, kind of the founding center of the Emirates, because 15 tribes in one oasis. Anyway, it's a 2-hour drive. And we took this 2-hour drive. We arrived at midnight. And we had to drive. And me and my partner, we had this idea that actually, why not make it a bit more adventurous and skip the local SIM card? So we were running without internet. And that means we had basically a screenshot of the highway. And it's straight, right? So it's not so complicated. But we missed one point. And that point is that we didn't really check on the gas. But first things first. So we were driving along the highway, and everything fine. At some point, bing, you know this, and we realized, okay, actually, you can drive 160. It's great highway. By the way, every German infrastructure manager should have a look at that. But so we had about 40 kilometers left or so, it told us. And that was good, no problem. We saw the sign, 22 kilometers, so we went on. And what happened is that we got there and it was closed. It was closed. It was now 2:00 at night. We had no internet, and it showed us 12 kilometers left. That was quite interesting. And so we went on to the next one. Surprise, surprise, it was closed too. So to cut it short, it was quite exciting. We were a little bit anxious. And that is interesting because that really brings me to the topic that this is kind of the state of EV charging at the moment, right? It's not really great. People are constantly scared. The most common term is range anxiety, which is what we just experienced in this case. Most of the time, not so important because the cars have about 200 average, which is long, right? But the problem is that the chargers don't work. So even if you have a car that has, 1,000 miles and you want to charge and the charger doesn't work, you have that situation. And there's a lot of news about this at the moment. For example, this is the Wall Street Journal. I think it's from this month, November. And Joanna Stern is the lady, she tried in LA the charging infrastructure and found out that about a staggering 40% were broken. 40%, I mean, think about that. You go to an ATM and 40% are broken, or you go to a gas station, 40%. It is just totally unacceptable. But this is the status of EV charging at the moment. And this is, of course, a big barrier for adoption, right? Who wants to take a car if he has this kind of experience? Nobody wants. Of course, if you can charge at home, it's a different situation, but let's just stick to the idea of we want to go to Al Ain, right? It's I definitely don't want to do that. So this is where we are at the moment. And there's very fun videos also. You can watch them on YouTube. People get emotional. Yeah, it's like that. It's really like that. And I think if you ever experienced this kind of range anxiety, you might know. In that case, it's a bit more complex because there's so many different players involved. And the question is, who is to blame? Of course, nobody, right? It's a big blame game. And this is where we come in with our why. Why do we do all this? Why deep tech? Because you need a solution that is, that's solving this and not just solving one puzzle piece. And this is something that is a little bit challenging because of the untold truth behind. The untold truth behind is that it's a huge economical shift from petrol combustion engine to electric mobility. It means basically electrons. Now, who is supposed to make money from that? There's two big industries behind that, energy and OEMs. And they thought this would be a very good situation to resolve this, right? Very simple, straightforward, and everybody knows directly how this works. And this is kind of where we are at the moment. Not to say that this is wrong, but it's not maybe very easy to say why something is broken. And just to give you a quick idea, so those two guys are standing here and basically building their own little puzzle and making sure that the other one doesn't see as much from their game because they don't want them to understand what they're doing and actually want to overtake them, outsmart them later. And that's been going on since the start of this in like 2010. And basically we have two guys standing in front of each other, not wanting to talk with each other, pretending to talk with each other. And therefore we have a big mess. And now, on top of this, we have a big celebration moment at the moment because huge investment, right? The US government just said think about 20 billion in this sustainable zero, whatever. So 7.5 million in EV charging infrastructure investment until 2050, I think. But that's a big pot of money. So why worry? Nothing to worry, right? And that's the problem. These guys don't really see the problem because they want to sell. And the customers, we saw it just here, it's like 80% of the room are not buying. And now there's different narratives being spun, but let's not go there. What we want to change kind of the appreciation. We want to change the mindset. We want to get to this state of mind, right? We want to be embracing this new reality. And we want to be totally overwhelmed and just happy. And that's also what we want our customers to be like, happy. And this is currently not the case, but this is what we are after. And how do we do this? Yeah, this is where it can get more technical or less technical, and also kind of a solution. But before we get into the solution, it's probably good to also ask ourselves a bit about you. Because I can tell many things, but the question is, where do you come from? And so I have three kind of questions or directions or areas I would like to explore. And the first thing is the go-to-market on the very left. I made this one slide, it could be three, but basically the question behind this is how much experience do you have with B2B versus B2C versus B2B to C? So three areas: business to business, business to customer, and business to business to customer. We can also say just two areas to keep it simple: business to business, business to customer. So let's start with this. Who of you is working in B2B? Okay, that's a third, maybe even half. Great. And the rest is in B2C, is that correct? Or anybody else in anything else? Like, no? Say again, please. Both, yeah, great, okay. B2B, and what's the average percentage? Like focus on B2B or is it 50-50 or 70-30 B2B? 70? Okay, all right. No, okay, good. All right, so that's good already in terms of this model, because what I maybe just quickly also about myself, that's why I'm asking this, right? I've been working in creative communications 15 years. I've been in this e-mobility or new mobility industry for 7 years. I've been strategic management advisor, car data, e-mobility, charging, all kinds of things. But basically, I have been playing on both sides of the fence at the beginning, focusing on the creative communication, mostly B2C, and then later more B2B and all the other fancy short abbreviations such as B2B2C and B2G and business to government, that is. But it's true that it makes a difference. Who's your customer and how do they work? How do they tick and how do the organizations work? And how is the whole sales process or the go-to-market? Because that needs, of course, to be reflecting the organizational structure on the other side. And it will have an impact on the decision-taking processes. This will have an impact on the timelines and also, of course, on the kind of product you're selling. And in e-mobility, in what we do B2B at the moment. We focus on B2B. That is because, it's just a bigger leverage, right? If you really want to go B2C, it's a huge number game. You need to put in so much money. And also, personally, I have to say that shift was interesting because when you start selling to companies, you start to have more impact because companies that apply a product have customers. And so you just sell it to one company and that company then has thousands, hundreds, sometimes millions of customers. And so actually your product is getting used by people without you having to deal with them directly. Nevertheless, what we do at Switch is that we really want to make it simple and easy, which is what brings us into the digital customer experience realm. And that's why it's very important to always keep the simplicity in mind that is needed in order to sell to an end customer. End customers on the street or wherever, it's like trying to explain to your granddad or something like that. They don't understand all the complexities behind. They don't need to understand it. They just need something that works. And so we want to do kind of both of this, but I wanted to understand where you're coming from so that we can then also explain a bit more different concepts behind that. The other thing that's interesting is product. So my question is, in that case, maybe also for myself, because as I said, I started with classic advertising. So you're selling Coca-Cola cans, or you're making an advertising campaign for Volkswagen because they have an electric window opener and very, very important things. And actually, or like a new car coming to market, but it's a very different kind of product sales than when you actually have a software solution that is adjustable. That's, I don't know, Amazon Cloud or something like that. Quite complex. And so depending on that product, your approach probably changes. So my question would be, how many people in the room do have experience with selling software? Okay. It's always this corner here. This is the business software corner. Great, okay. The rest, what kind of products do you sell? Just out of curiosity. Or not selling any products? Internet, good one. Anyone else? A bottle. Water bottle, nice. Yeah, it's a product. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Smart water bottle. Good. SIM cards. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Good to understand. I don't want to lecture too much. This is just about there's different mindsets in companies depending how that's supposed to work, and that's most of the time driven about coming from the nature of the product and how then customers interact with it. And in general, there is the bottom-up or the top-down approach. And the top-down is kind of the regular one. Basically, you say, okay, I think these guys are my customers, and I'm going to have a sales department, and I tell them to go after them. And that's kind of the opportunistic sales approach, I would call it, which makes sense. And also, if you scale it a bit, and we do this actually also in our company, then it's target account sales. So you really define who is the most important, most potent candidates on the market, and then this is where you're going to focus your effort, because this is how you're going to make the most revenue. So that's definitely important, especially if you have high profile customers or big companies, enterprises. So that's the top part, part of the burger in that case. And the bottom part is the user. So below the product is then the actual user. And for software as a service sales, there is this idea of the hamburger model, where you can also say you have a product first approach, and you basically, from a marketing perspective, what you want is you want to generate users. You just want people to use your product, and then that will teach you everything and will also make you sell. and you don't really have to. So marketing is creating users, and sales doesn't really have to do anything with them. They just want to, then the product is supposed to basically upsell them to the higher tier so that you make more profit. And so all the information is between the user and the product to optimize the product to generate more revenue. Whereas on the other side, you have a product that is as this, and you're selling it to people, and you're just trying to scale on the part where you sell. The product is kind of more a bit static, maybe. And we are a software startup, right? We're a startup. A Switch AV from London. It's founded by a German guy, Dr. Mark Miltin. Really good guy. And it's just saying because the British have a bit of a different. You have a British accent. You might be British. Exactly. Yeah. I was just measuring my words here. Yeah, exactly. No, but it's a really good combination, I would say, to navigate out of this space. Now, the British are more hands-on. The German like to plan more. I mean, this is all stereotypes, obviously. We know that it's not just as simple as this. But this is a startup, meaning that we are still developing the product. The product is being brought to market, and as we bring it to market, it's developed further. New features are added, and so on and so forth. But we use both elements, so both the target account sales and the product-driven bottom-up go-to-market. And the last thing is ecosystems in terms of understanding. I guess the B2B people know more about this, but this is a bit more about EV charging, and also to maybe kind of pull the curtain away of the complexities behind this, because this is the digital energy ecosystem in that case. Slightly different to the other one we had, but basically what's the main point here is that you have on this side, you have the car and the charging with the user at the top, and on the other side you have the energy. So here's energy, here's mobility, more or less, and we are here in the center. But it can get really complex on this side, the energy side of things, because we have local regulations, we have governments, and these regulations change depending on region. And also power grids change, like technical things change and things like that. And then they all interact, and you need to find a way to make sense of money out of this. And this is where we come in with the deep tech solution that we have. So this is to say, whatever your questions are, we can dive into different aspects of this. Ecosystem is, this is also, it's such a turn. I was thinking about what to put here, but it can be complex depending, and it can be easy depending on what part you look, if you look at a certain element or the bigger picture. So maybe let's go on to bring this into play. So this is kind of the value chain, more or less, the supply chain. And this is the smiling curve, a concept, I think, from the 70s, 80s. And I really liked it, came across it once, and basically what it says is that the value is on the edge. So you want to go to the edge, the smiling curve, because in the middle line, the competition is very fierce, and innovation is low, and therefore it's going to be a price war. And on the outside, innovation is high, and therefore it's probably the better place to be in as a company. And so what we do is we focus on the two ends of this supply chain. That is here the one that's on the user end. So it's the easy part, so to say. And then on the other end is where the innovation, the R&D, the supply happens, and this is where it's more profitable. And we have two products for those two sides, but anyway, this is just a kind of a good, it's always a good measure to understand when you think about what should we focus on, maybe where should we innovate in towards. Value capture is happening in the edges. And what we want to do, or what's it's a bit stupid, but at the end, it's also the winner takes it all. And what is always very interesting in innovation is the approach where you have high risk and high control, which is on the top right part here. So this is the amount of the committed resources from left to right, and from bottom to top is the level of control. So on the left corner, there's low risk because you have not so much control, but you also have not so much committed resources. The more resources you commit, the more you can, for example, go to new markets, right? And if you also want to increase the level of control, then of course you have not just more resources you invest, but also more efforts you have. But then you might get to a new value proposition and might be able to bring that to new markets. That is the so-called outside-in approach sometimes, where, let's say, a company, I'm just making this up now, of course, a company such as Volvo is deciding to sell energy, right? So new value proposition, if they say, let's say, we have energy that is from your local town, and you can charge on this energy in the local town, and we bring this to end customers. Then they have a new value proposition, energy from the local town, maybe with blockchain or whatever, and a new market because they are entering a new market, energy services or sales. This is just, of course, to say there's different ways to do it. What we're trying to do is really we're trying to bring a new value proposition to new markets. And for a startup, that is high risk, but it's also high gain. Yeah. That is also to say there's different, I'm telling you all of this because there is so many different companies in the market that offer different solutions. And depending on who you are and your perspective into this, and also I'm trying to make this not a sales pitch because I hate sales pitches in this kind of setting. But from your understanding, if you have a view on the ecosystem of EV charging or new mobility, you might be looking for very different things depending on what your need is. But the topic of here is deep tech and making it easy and profitable. So what's the next one? Yeah, this is a more technical slide. We can go to this later. Actually, I have this more for if people have questions. But just to give you a glimpse on that. Basically, what I said on the left here is the opposite side around. On the left, we have the mobility. On the right, we have the energy. And this is kind of the value chain. And we are somewhere in the center. And basically what we enable is we enable on both sides embedded customers and cloud customers with our solutions. And so this is our solution here. But the customers are then different types of customers with different value propositions, different benefits, and so on and so forth. And but basically, it's one solution that enables that. And it's a vertically integrated solution. That means it's on this vertical because let's not get into this. But basically, we enable people to use to extend new value propositions in new markets with our solution, right? Because they can use our cloud, which is the backend essentially, to then implement other business structures or software systems that they have through API or through the App Store. And on the other hand, we enable charger manufacturers or car manufacturers to bring new technologies to market. Yeah. Wrong button. There we go. Yeah, that's it. So from here, I said we can dive into this, but I'm not sure how interested you are. So I'm trying to keep it a bit more fun. The fun part is how do we make sense from this? And there's this nice book of Uri Levine, and basically. It's that you really need to fall in love with the problem and the solution. That's also why I'm trying to not talk too much about solution, but about what do we want to achieve with it. And in that case, it's really about helping your customers to overcome the mediocrity of their current status being. That is been driven by the mess that we've seen before in our case, or in other cases, just simple problems with a water bottle. Maybe there's a problem with, I don't want to make assumptions, but personally, my water bottles get dirty sometimes. And so there is a problem, and you fall in love with the problem, and then you can create a great product because you're actually solving a problem that is a real customer concern, rather than a technical game. The other thing that I took from my past really is attitude and strategy. So the one thing is the problem. The other thing is that it needs to be resonant with your customers, right? It needs to be emotional because people are emotional and emotional beings at least. And this is what I did in the first 15 years of my career. Advertising, Hornbach, most people in Germany might know it, quite a good one. And Yes, Schweiß fließt, wenn Muskeln weinen. So basically, you need to put a lot of effort in if you want something to become great. And that's the other thing. It's not just a problem, it's also making it a solution, of course. And those two things is basically what we do. And that all brings together then DAM. DAM as an abbreviation for damn good EV charging. So what we want to achieve is damn good EV charging. And that stands, of course, for something, and yeah, pardon the French, but it's just an abbreviation to basically say what are the 4 areas that we are most unique, that's most important. It's diagnostics. That helps you to understand where the problem is in this mess before. API first, if you are a company that actually has a solution in place and just wants to stack EV charging on top or certain solutions of that. And money, because nobody's making money at the moment, so you need to be able to make more money from it, very important. Or save money. And new class of infrastructure, because as we heard, 40% at the moment broken, unacceptable. And that's the 4th thing that we do. And that's just a nice abbreviation to make this a bit more sticky. Now with this, we can go into examples. One example is currently that we have an app store. We have this backend and we have an app store. And that app store basically means that you don't need to understand the complexity behind it. You can just go in and say, hey, I want to add this functionality, and you click and you have it. And that's it. And you don't want it anymore, and you click and it's gone. And that's, of course, helpful because, otherwise you might have to do all these integrations and get rid of it again. And then if you want to change one software provider, and you end up with mess. So that is solved if the system is taking care of that. And that's what we do in our case. And this is, again, where the digital customer experience comes to play. That's something that is not the only option, of course. You can also do it differently. If you want to do it all by yourself manually, you can still do that. But for the sake of digital customer experience, I think this is a good example of what we do. What we have here is, for example, we have a functionality called roaming. That basically means that's, the same with the phone before, right? That's why we didn't have internet, because we were in a foreign country. With a card, it means if you go outside of your little town, all of a sudden, whatever your authentication method is might not work anymore. You need a new authentication method, which is very annoying. And that is resolved by roaming. So there is platforms and interoperability layers, they called. And that's, for example, Hubject, and you can just click and then you have it. Or GRF in France, e-clearing in Nordics and Netherlands. Then there is interesting things like InCharge, which is customer loyalty schemes, right, basically. So that's more for retail and so on and so forth. You want to give people a reason to come to your store and charge on your store. And that is most of the time done by rewarding them for doing so. Or for companies, you can do the same, of course. You have partnerships and so on and so forth. And so loyalty. Another thing, echo movement, that's all about POI data for honestly, I don't really know. But it is, let me think. No, it's POI data. I'm not sure. I was confused with it. It's basic data. That's an interesting one because, of course, as I showed you before, with this huge map and infrastructure and how it works together in all the systems, data is, and I also said digital energy before, I think, and it is all very digital versus the petrol stations where it's really just about bringing a bunch of petrol to our location and then you can bring it on. So everything is digital. There's a lot of data involved. There's customer data involved. There's habits involved. There's predictions. There's all kinds of things you can do with big data in this mobility ecosystem. You can leverage it. You can build new services on top of this also. There's also car data and so on and so forth. There's things like, some people might know that or use that actually. For example, there is insurance that is measuring how you're driving, and then depending on your driving, the level of insurance goes up and down. There's all kinds of things you can do with data in the system, because essentially what e-mobility is, it's the first step towards digitizing, transforming mobility to being a digitized ecosystem. And therefore data is essential and just getting more. Other things that are here, I don't want to brag too much about this, but there's a customer success, for example, so somebody that can taking care of your customers, basically just plug on, and then you have an external provider that's taking care if somebody has a charger that is broken, which happens, we heard, and then you don't have people ringing your office or your private number on the weekends. And there's the most complex part, which is this digital energy integration, which is bidirectional power flow, and so on and so forth. That is something I'm going to get to later. But basically what we have here is an overview or a way of plugging in and plugging out functionality with one swipe, essentially. So that's one example. The other example is this one, exactly the VGG. That was the new one we saw before. So vehicle to grid. Vehicle to grid is also very complicated in the technological terms. We saw before this short diagram. Basically, what it brings is it allows you to reduce costs or make money, because when you look at a car, it's essentially a battery pack on wheels, and if you have more than one, which many companies do, then you have a lot of battery packs on wheels, and then sometimes they tend to be standing all weekend, for example, or at night, because people don't use it. And then it's a dead asset. But if you plug it in to the grid, you can make money from it. So your cars all of a sudden turn to earning assets. And those functionalities behind it are called bidirectional power flow, dynamic charging, smart charging, vehicle to grid, and frequency response services. Quite complex principles, but basically what it means is that you can, there's V1G, which is then basically the frequency reserve control. So the power grid has always needs to stay in a certain hertz level. So the demand and so the power that's being pulled out and the power that's being put in needs to be almost the same, so that it's staying at the same frequency, right? Because if the frequency stops too much, then we have outages. So that shouldn't happen. And in order to prevent that, it's good to have buffer. And buffer systems help for exactly that. And what is possible, and now if we plug in sustainable energy on top, of course, we have more peaks, right? Because sun shines and wind blows, and sometimes it doesn't. And that means we have peaks, and those peaks might not correlate with the demand. And so that's another thing, that you have peaks, and you can basically buffer those peaks by using those batteries on wheels as huge connected vehicle vertical power plants, virtual power plants. So you combine them all together to one virtual power plant, and then they basically can put energy into the grid or pull energy out of the grid as you need it. That's a V2G. Yes, I'll stop here. We can go into this in more detail if you're interested, but also something that we do and something that is setting us apart, and one of the areas where it's most complex. Yeah, from complex to easy, that's really good. So everything we did and do from the beginning, and that was not my decision, but I think really interesting is that Mark, the German founder, Dr. Mark Miltin, who is the co-author of ISO 15118, by the way, which is one of the most relevant communication protocols that these machines use to talk to each other, decided that it's very important that our UI is very simple, very easy to understand, so that you don't need a PhD to use it, which is currently most of the time the case. And so for us, that's how our solution or the backend is done. It's very simple. We have a design-centric approach. We have many designers, UX experts, and we have continuous user research, user interviews, and we test and iterate continuously based on that. And that brings us to a solution that is very intuitive, very easy to use. You just click and basically you learn by yourself. It's no training required. Yeah, and this is what we bring all together. So the complexity of these technical solutions behind that are needed to connect all these different systems, and the ease on the front end that allows everybody then to use it. Yeah, that got changed, but it's still the same. So those are the three main principles we have: iteration, speed, and love, I call it. So this is what we use to get there, to make this complex easy to use, and also people happy, fun when they use it. First, iterations, second, speed, and third, love. That's me. Sorry, I had to put myself in just to make it 3. But it's 3 short videos, 1 minute each. I hope they're gonna play, and we hear some sound. So this is Sam. Sam is our head of design, or UX wizard, I would say. He's the guy that's doing all the user interviews and user research. And then we have Chad, handsome fellow here. He's our head of product delivery, so he's more on the nerd side of things, making sure that whatever Sam comes up with and I have in mind is actually being put into a product and timeline. And then that's me, and I'm basically responsible for making sense out of all of this. And in the three things I said, iteration and speed and customer love, so to say, is what our functions are, more or less, I would say. What are the three principles that we use and that these videos are about. Let me see. Oh no. Maybe you can place it here. Yeah.
We can build out a feature if we have like the idea in our heads within, a day, say. I can rush and just put this feature together super quick based on what I think it's going to be like, knowing that I'm going to show it to a user anyway, and they'll probably tear it apart. As soon as I get in front of a user, if they comment on a piece of design or comment on a little bit of color or something like that, that's kind of not the biggest thing that I'm wanting reaction to. It's the functionality and does it work, and is it gonna get a task done for you that's quick? If someone comes on and goes, I can't complete this task, that's when I'm like, great, we've found this issue that we need to get over. Just any feature is just never going to be finished because it's evolving so much. And I think that's where the open-mindedness comes from. And as soon as you understand that like everything needs to be iterated and everything needs to be improved, every bit of feedback then just becomes like a good thing. You're like, oh, you've helped me get to the final outcome of this thing.
Yeah. I just chose this bit because I'm always impressed about the work of Sam and his ability to take feedback as a stepstone to make it better. And he's very quick and iterative, and that's also how we build our product and design our product. And it is something that I find very interesting. But most important, I think, is really this understanding that it's software. It's never finished. It's continuously updated. It's a different mindset, and you need to have that mindset in your entire team because there is no such thing as finished. It will continuously change because as soon as it's good, probably the market will change. We'll have new demands, and then all of a sudden you have new feature requests, and then it changes again. And therefore, iteration is an essential principle that is should be present in the entire structure of the company. The other bit is speed. Specific, of course, for startups, speed is essential because the market, in our market, this new mobility market is evolving rapidly. It's merging. Big oil entered the game a few years back. Big, deep pockets, buying everything to make sure nobody's moving. And what is the only way out of this is really being fast and bringing things in front of people so that you have feedback again that you can learn from and then iterate. So speed is very important. In that case, speed. Oops, no, I didn't want that. Let me go back. Here we go. Yeah. That is speed to feature requests. So how long do we take from a customer request of whatever they would like to change for us to implement that change?
Something we're proud of at Switch is how fast we release and how quickly we can respond to requests from our clients. And we've had many instances already of our clients requesting a feature and managing to ship it within 1 or 2 weeks. We release every week. We actually had a client tell us recently that was too often and they were expecting it every quarter. But we're pretty determined to keep releasing really quickly because we're developing at pace. It's really important at this stage in the industry to be developing quickly because we do have competition. The industry is advancing quickly and we need to deliver this value now. We have an amazing team of developers and designers, and I think that makes my job a lot easier. I can generally request something and it does genuinely get done in a pretty amazingly fast time.
Yeah. That's another thing that's really important, speed. And personally, I just like the... also, we are a small team. We're like 33 people now. Our competitors have about 300 people. We just, as I said, we just at the stage of where we bring the second product to market now. And so things are changing continuously, but it's important to have this mindset, and it's of course important to have the right resources in-house to be able to provide this. The last bit, I mean, I kind of hate to show myself. It's a bit embarrassing. But why I put this in here is because of the customer centricity, and that this is really something that me coming from the marketing aspect, I really have to champion all the time the customers. For me, marketing really is essentially about bringing information from outside of the company into the company, so that the company is not just continuously revolving around itself, but actually is reflecting what does the market want, where is the biggest potential for us, which market segments are most relevant, and so on and so forth. And that's just quickly.
We track and groom against customer lifetime value across the entire customer journey. That means essentially bringing value to the dollar spent. So that includes then both tools for tracking and personal exchange, with going to events, trade shows, talking with colleagues, talking with customer success, but also talking with companies outside of our own company, maybe even competitors, talking to people that are not us, that have a very different approach to us, that challenge our position, that don't believe in what we say, that don't want to believe in what we say because they have an agenda that's against ours. All of this is very informative and can actually strengthen our understanding of the market, and therefore the customer centricity, and how we then can customize our messaging towards them.
So basically, just to say, we have qualitative data, quantitative data. We need to get that from different sources, bring it all together. And I'm not quite sure where I stand in time, but I'm a bit over, right? No? Yeah. Okay. Then just quickly, this book is interesting. Peter Thiel, I mean, people might like him or hate him. Blake Masters, interesting one too, American fella, recently more discussed. But this book is interesting for the mindset in terms of its startup again. It's about really making things that have real innovation, that really bring value. So not just having a little bit of an improvement, but actually something that really is a fundamental change to something, and to enable vertical progress through this. Because if you only progress horizontally, so to say, as they describe in the book, you never make this leap forward. And what we want is we want to make this leap forward. And in order to get to this 0 to 1, a leap forward mindset, we need to be able to see things differently. And there, again, data comes to mind, and customers come to mind, and also diverse teams are important to get there. But this is just a book I can recommend for that case. And this is basically what brings us to our solutions. Now there are 3 short videos I have, really short, 15 seconds or so, that are basically explaining or showing how we bring this to play. So make more money with roaming in that case. That is the interoperability aspect we had before. So basically making sure that there's a charge point and everybody can access it, everybody can use it. That is, if you are interested in deploying infrastructure, that means that you will increase footfall because people can actually find that charger and then use it, and therefore navigate to your site. You can increase the property value of your property if you own the property where you're installing the infrastructure by adding an additional revenue stream to your property, which is something property development people love. And you can generally drive a profit off a rapid return of investment on infrastructure, which is very important because those machines are very expensive. Specifically, the high power chargers, they cost about 100K one piece. So that is a lot of money to be put in the ground. And then with roaming, you open up for at least 600 million users. I mean, that's worldwide. I mean, they're not going to pass by your charging station, but they can theoretically find it and access it. And this, let me just try, maybe I have to click here again. It's this, yeah, exactly. Just there's no sound on it. Yeah, it's just emphasizing the ease of how this is done, right? This is basically what we said before. There's the App Store, and this is, of course, in a loop in communication. And all you do is you make more out of your network by opening it up to others and adding roaming functionality with one click. One example of how we communicate and try to do things. The other thing is that bulk uploading is a very important feature that we just released, for example, and that allows to activate thousands of chargers at once, which is important if you have already networks, big networks. You don't want to bring them up one by one. It also allows to scale networks. You can acquire, for example, other networks, and then you can integrate them into your backend very easily. And you can also change software providers like that. So if you want to replace your backend, you can then export, import easily. And basically that all reduces your operational costs and expenses. And that's always a great thing to do. And therefore we made a little video about that. Yeah. So that's our interface. Yes. Drop in the file, boom. And then you have whole sites edit. So CSMS, by the way, charging station management system. That's the backend. And that's how this works. And that's kind of the UI, how we present it. This is a video, it's 2 minutes long. I'm not sure if you want to see it. It's about this whole how to make money with bidirectional charging. If you're interested, I can play it. Again, it's no sound, but you can just vote up or down. one pro. That's not enough. No, you just tell me. Okay. I'll just do it. I know you're shy. Come on, you want it. So value generation, cost saving. That's what I said before. That's what you do. This is a day with Nuvi and Switch. Nuvi is our partner that is doing all the complex algorithm work in the background. It's an American company. And that is interesting that basically you can store also energy in the cars, right? Which is interesting with sustainable energy, what we said before. So if you have peaks, for example, wind at night, your car is standing there, or whatever during the day on your company car lot, you can just use that energy, pump it into the car, and then bring it back to the grid when demand is high and prices peak. And you basically can get energy on negative prices. So you get money for taking it. Then there's smart charging, which basically means that depending on that, you actually take it or drop it, the energy. So that's, of course, needs some market signals. There's the energy market. There's certain peaks, then there's periods of times where prices go up and down. And this is all the intelligence behind that basically automates it to smart charging. Then there's V1G, where you reduce the grid demand. That's what I explained before, by basically using the car as a buffer system that then is increasing the amount of energy on the one side or pulling out energy if there's too much energy in the grid. And then you can diversify revenue streams as V equal to X, everything in that case. That means you have bidirectional power transfer, and you can actually feed energy into storage systems, or you can feed energy to buildings. And then by this, you can, reduce the cost of the buildings, or you can have the energy systems feed it back to the grid or feed it back to another fleet that needs it. So basically connecting the systems. And then also you have at night the ability, again, what I just said, for example, to have energy self-sufficiency at home with, if you have a big truck, for example, not a small car like this. In the US, that's a particular thing because the power grid is quite weak. And then you can power your home running from your car, which is also something that can be handy in times. That's that. And now, now questions. I think now it's questions. Time for questions. Exactly. I don't know. We said questions later, but you can have questions now if you want.
Thank you, Ben, and big applause.